Hello YouTube, Traveling Gaming here, and today we're going to be taking another flight here on Virgin Australia, Virgin 652, service up to Sydney, Australia. Flight time of 1 hour on the 777-300ER. Alright, so welcome to the flight deck. Beautiful Virgin 300ER service up to Mr. Sydney. Alright, so we'll go ahead and take a quick look at our flight here. We'll be departing runway 12, making straight out departure off of runway 12, and making our way up to Sydney. So, yeah, so it should be a fairly straight out flight. No major, I don't expect any, we're going to have to make a very wide flight here. We're going to kind of narrow it over as we go here. It'll probably exceed, where's the ILS for that runway? Alright, we're going to go here. So we're flying from Sydney as Qantas, Virgin, sorry, not Qantas, Jesus. I'm getting mixed up because I did a previous flight with Qantas. We're going to be flying to Sydney via the Boeing 777-300ER. And we'll be taking the runway here. It's a very short runway. We'll probably be doing taxi back. Cruising altitude of 12,000 feet today. And speed, obviously, you know, it's 250 knots for this beautiful Boeing. So we'll be taking a hotel here. I'll go ahead and fasten everyone's seatbelt. And at this point we can start our pushback. We're going to release our brakes and start our pushback service up to good old Sydney. We have a very light aircraft, so we'll be taking a flaps 5 departure on today. Since our aircraft is very light. And once the aircraft is pushed back here, we'll be taking a taxi back. And then cruising down runway 12 for departure. Alright. Due to how big this aircraft is, we cannot fit a smaller aircraft at this point. Our seatbelt is on. And our flaps 5 departure will make sure our spoilers are working. Alright, so let's go and turn off our brakes. And we're going to see if we can't taxi over to runway 12 for departure today, up to Qantas, up to Sydney. I keep saying Qantas. I need to get that out of my brain, guys. Alright. $157 nautical miles to go to our destination. Should be a fairly nice flight. Latest weather reported up at Sydney, 26 degrees Celsius. And yeah, so we're going to go ahead and take this right here. We've got a fairly light aircraft, so I don't expect that we're going to need much room to take off. We're going to turn on our landing lights. Strobe lights are coming on as we get ready for departure here up to Sydney, Australia. So we're going to take as much as this runway as we can. Obviously, you know, we're a big 777, so we're going to do a taxi back probably. It is unrealistic, but this type of an airport, they have to update it. So we're going to be doing a taxi back at least. So we can get the aircraft off the ground here. Our total flight time should be about 1 hour-ish to our destination. Alright. Alright guys, so we are ready to go here. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the brakes. And we're going to go ahead and turn the aircraft around here. This is a very small airport, not meant for aircrafts this big. We actually may need a tow tug. Alright, so this isn't really realistic at all, but I have to turn the aircraft around so we can take off. Alright, back on the runway here. Alright, we'll go ahead and set the brakes here for departure. And we'll go ahead and rev up our engine here. Engine is stabilized. We'll be using a full 106% in one due to the just due to how big this aircraft is. We do have to use a lot of power to get it off the runway here. And up we go. And we managed to get the aircraft off the runway. Positive rate. Heading select. That should control our heading as we continue our climb out. Perfect. Flaps 1. Speed select. And altitude select. Perfect. We're going to go and climb out a little bit quicker there. Alright, so we're cruising, we're coming up on our takeoff. We just initiated our takeoff as Virgin Australia. And we're departing Canberra on a flight up to Sydney, Australia here. Our flying time today, again guys, 45, 1 hour. Should be relatively quick. And, yeah. Alright. Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, Captain speaking. I'd like to welcome everyone aboard Qantas Virgin Australia Flight 1337, service up to Sydney here, guys. Our flying time today, 45, 1 hour, depending on how fast our captain decides to pull the aircraft at. But registered flying time today, 45 minutes to 1 hour. Ish to get to Sydney, Australia on the Boeing 777-300. We do have a choice of complimentary drinks and alcoholic beverages after we get up to cruising altitude of 12,000 feet. You're more than welcome, as our flight attendants will be coming around to serve complimentary sodas, juices, and water and milk. There's also a choice of alcoholic beverages, and there's also a choice for you to buy any snacks on board that you wish to buy. We have a complete of 146 nautical miles to go, and we're cruising up at flight level 12,000. So it should be at Sydney here in no time at all. If anything happens, we'll let you know up along the way. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. Alright guys, so we're coming up on 10,000 feet, landing lights coming off, and we're only 2,000 feet away from our cruise. And at this point, we're continuing our cruise up to flight level of 12,000. And I'm just going to go on my computer here and check our systems for the runway arrival once we get into Sydney. So everyone enjoy the flight, and I'll be back when we reach Sydney, Australia. Alright guys, so I'm just listening to the ATIS up at Sydney here, and you guys aren't hearing it at this point just because I just want to make sure that we have everybody on track. Alright, we're cruising flight level 2000 now. Seatbelts are coming off. Enjoy the beautiful morning. Alright, just a quick update, guys. We are now 5 minutes into our flight time and 130 nautical miles to go. We are going to go ahead and increase our speed up to 335 knots for picking up our speed up a little bit. Alright, so we are now, 124 nautical miles for So, just to quickly update you guys, we're coming up 122 nautical miles from Sydney, Australia, and our first notch of flaps are coming in at 255 knots. Fifth notch of flaps is 235. And our 15 degrees of flaps comes in at 215, 20 degrees 200, 25 degrees at 190, and 30 is at 180. Our maximum landing gear extension speed is 270 knots, which is Mach 0.82. Our maximum gear operating speed is 270 knots. And our maximum operating speed is Mach 0.84. So we'll be extending flaps 1 here in about a couple minutes here as soon as we get closer to Sydney. And yeah, outside air temperature right now is at 0. We are cruising pretty fast here. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the last little bit of this aircraft. Alright, now coming up 115 nautical miles from our destination airport, Sydney. 152 our VREF landing approach speed will be flaps 30 gear down and our speed of 157 nautical knots. So we will be slowing this puppy down quite a bit. We will be doing a manual landing. It is going to be visual landing, runway 34 right for arrival. We actually may change that to runway 34 left here, depending on how we feel about the approach. Alright, we're cruising 8 minutes into our flight, and we're about halfway there, not almost half, not quite. Once we get up there, we'll be reducing our speed down quite a bit. So, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck captain speaking. Looks like it'll only take about 20 minutes to get down to Sydney. We've only been flying here for 8 minutes. Our flight time has been 8 minutes since we left Canberra. At this point, we are about almost halfway through the flight, and on behalf of Virgin Australia, I'd like to thank you everyone for flying with us today, and we hope to serve you in the near future. We do realize that the 777 is a little bit of an overkill for a flight like this, but they had no replacement aircrafts for us, so we had to take it. We're coming up on our next waypoint here in a matter of minutes, so we'll be turning to another heading here, and should be on the ground here in about 15-20 minutes or so. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the little descent down. We are going to be ringing the seatbelt sign here in about about 10-ish minutes from now. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight to the remainder of the flight to Sydney, Australia. Current weather reported at Sydney: 26 degrees Celsius. Winds are out of the northeast, about 10 kilometers an hour. So fairly light winds, and should be a fairly decent flight up to the rest of the way up to Sydney. Alright, so we're coming up on Utah. I'll be turning to a heading of 15 for Utah. And at this point we can start a descent, but it is a little bit early to do that. And here we come, and I'm going to get ready to start kicking it 1 notch. And we're going to start our turn to Utah at 15 degrees here. .2 nautical miles to go, so we should be on the ground here in about 12 minutes. And we're continuing our flight down to Sydney, Australia. Estimated time on this heading is going to be about 9 minutes, and then we got 2 minutes and 1 minute behind that. So fairly straightforward from here. I'll go ahead and start our initial descent down to flight level 10,000 here. We do have a fairly light loaded aircraft, so shouldn't be too much of a hassle to get it on the ground and stopped. We have started our initial descent down at flight level 10,000, so sit back, relax, and just enjoy the rest of the flight. Alright guys, so we're coming up on 12 minutes here, and we're descending through flight level 11.5 for flight level 10,000 here. I'm going to go ahead and set the autopilot to go ahead and push us down to 8,000 here as we start our slow descent down. We're about halfway here, so we're going to reduce speed to 310 knots. We'll put our spoilers out and also turn on the landing lights at this point. So our ground speed is coming up 383 knots, 381, Mach 0.59 now. So we're getting ready to really start slowing the puppy down, and a on-time arrival into Sydney, Australia. Alright. Alright, now we're coming down to pull the spoilers a little bit more as we reduce speed to 250 knots. Climbing, descending through flight level 11,000, just coming up on 10,000 about 20 seconds here. And I have pulled the speed back to 250 knots. And our first extension flap speed will be, flaps 1's going to be right now. So we'll go ahead and lower that. Actually, it's not even right now. It's a little early for flaps 1, but we are... Flaps 1 is basically like flaps nothing, so we have put flaps 1 in. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pull the aircraft down to 6,000 now. And as you guys can see, we're approaching Sydney, Australia here relatively quickly. We do have flaps 1 set in already for the aircraft as it continues its farewell descent down to Sydney. Our flaps 5 will be coming in at 235 knots, but we'll slow this puppy down once we get closer to Sydney, Australia. Alright, at this time, we're still descending here relatively slow here, so we're going to turn on the seatbelt sign, and at this point we can go and descend about 800 feet per minute. And that'll keep the aircraft up during the flight. Our GPS right now is showing WY Yankee Sierra November Whiskey, and we're just passing the airport right now. So we should be able, yeah, we can see it right out the tail there. Alright, coming through 10,000 feet now. And we're gonna go ahead and reduce speed here in just a couple minutes. Shouldn't be too much longer though. And at this time, we're descending through flat level 9.7 for flat level 6,000. Alright, let's go and get rid of those dang spoilers. This time, we'll also go ahead and set spoilers armed. Seatbelts on. Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, captain speaking. We are starting our final part of our descent down Sydney, Australia. Here we're only about 61 nautical miles out and at a speed of 250 knots. So once we get past this little slow part of the flight time, we should be on the ground at Sydney in no time at all. Just looking at the weather here, Sydney, Australia looks like it is clear skies, 26 degrees Celsius with the wind gust. Not as hard now, it's gotten down a little bit, but still a little bit of a windy day here at Sydney, and yeah, so we'll be parking at gate, okay, let me see here, let me just pull up my chart. We'll be in the domestic arrival terminal 2, we'll be landing runway 134 left, this is the 34 left. I'll probably get off of Bravo 3 and then take it into the domestic terminal. So we have a very short taxi once we are on the ground here in Sydney. And once again, I'd like to thank you everybody for flying with Virgin Australia. And we hope to serve you in the near future. I'll be coming back on the PA system once we've landed in Sydney, Australia. Alright guys, so there is a runway incursion here, a hotspot at 725 and runway 16 and 34. Just so you guys know, we are flying domestic. This is not a international flight, so we'll be taking the left-hand side of the runway. And we'll be monitoring tower for runway 34 left on 124.7. So we'll go ahead and we can just fake it, put that in there. Alright, descending through flight level 7.4. I have been talking for quite some time. So, yeah. And just a quick update. We're either going to take Bravo 3, Bravo 4, or Foxtrot off. And then taxi over to the domestic terminal. No exactly assigned gate yet, but we can check on that here. Let me just double check what gate we're assigned to. Alright, let's go ahead and check what gate that our assignment's at. So if we go down, I'll leave all the stuff I use here in the description below so you guys can check out. We're going to reduce our speed to 235 knots at this point. And We'll check our gate assignment here in just a minute. Alright, let's go and see what our gate assignments look like. We're probably going to be taking one of the harder... Yeah, we're probably going to be taking... Let's see. We are going to take either gates 40, 38, or 36. We have the option. We'll make a decision once we get closer down to the ground. Once we get on the ground in Sydney, we'll make a decision upon what gate to take. We'll go ahead and just extend flaps 5 for our flaps. Sorry, not flapping. There's no such word as that. Alright. So we're coming up pretty fast here. It's been about 19 minutes since this flight ever took place. And we're about actually about 45 nautical miles out from... So yeah, we have a pretty good arrival chart here. Again, we're runway 16 right and 34, and runway 16 and 25 have an incursion. So we just need to make sure we watch out for that. I'm thinking we're probably going to either take Foxtrot or Bravo 3, depending on how well the approach goes. So we're taking runway 34 left for arrival. Not 34 right. So we're just going to have to watch the map and make sure that the aircraft gets on course once we get closer to that point. Still descending through flight level 5,000 here, and we have flaps 5 set in for our... Alright, so we do have a 5-degree angle pitch. This is normal for a flight like this, as we have flaps setting in. We could also take runway 34 right for ILS 34. It's a 2,438 meter long runway. It's a DME. And then we could taxi Lima, and then connect Sierra, Bravo 10, and then Charlie, Bravo. Keep going up on Bravo, cross runway 07, and then take Charlie 2 to the gates. But I think we're going to do 3-4 just because it's a lot easier. On the GPS here, we'll select that once it pops up here. Alright, we're getting pretty low here. We're going to maintain this altitude here for a couple kilometers, and then switch over to... I'm going to go ahead and quickly listen to ATIS at YSSY right now. Alright guys, so just hang on a sec. I'm going to go ahead and listen to ATIS up at Sydney. Satellite tower approach. Alright, so we're continuing on our descent down to flight level 4,000. We'll just listen to ATIS here real quickly. Alright, you're going to go ahead and kick the speed down one more. You're going to kick it down to 215 knots. As we continue our flight towards Sydney, Australia here. So as you can see, we've kicked the flaps down one more notch, so that we don't have that high elevation trim set in. We're going to descend down to flight level 3,500 now as we approach Sydney, even though we're not quite on the ILS yet, but we'll keep it there. And we'll be putting our landing gear down here Let's see. Landing gear extension is going to be 270 knots. So we'll be extending the landing gear here momentarily. Yeah, 270 yeah. So 270 knots will do for our gear. And as you can see, guys, it is getting dark out. We'll be turning to a heading of 08 in a minute. I don't think it's a very big turn, but we'll see how it goes. We're probably going to be using the autopilot landing feature, but we'll see once we get up to Sydney. Alright, guys, so I have changed my mind. We are going to go ahead and land runway 34 right. Due to the fact that we could probably taxi Lima, Charlie, and then Bravo 4 will lead us to the gates. So that's probably what we're going to end up doing here in a minute. But we'll make a note of that in just a moment. Alright, we're going to go ahead and turn the heading of 08, which is not a very big change of heading, but just to make sure that we're on course. And we have decided that we're going to go ahead and make it so that we can intercept the localizer for the runway here. We're getting closer to the airport, so we're probably going to taxi Lima. If we can get off the runway Tango 2, we'll taxi Tango 2, Uniform Tango 1, Tango, Sierra, Charlie, and then Bravo 4 to the gates. But we'll see once we get closer to the runway. Keeping the speed just up a little bit as we continue our flight into Sydney, Australia. Alright. Got about 10 nautical miles to fly here. So, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, captain speaking. At this point, we are about 19 nautical miles out, to be exact, out of Sydney, Australia. We'll be landing runway 34 right, and I'll be taking quite a long taxi to the domestic terminal. I'll be parking at gate 38 today for arrivals, and should be on the ground here in about 5 minutes. Alright, so we do have a giant turn coming up. I just want to make sure I coordinate this right, and that we're not going to miss it by more than 30 degrees. Alright, guys, so we're down at 3,000. I'm going to go ahead and descend down at 3,000 feet. And we're going to see if we can't spot. There it is. There's Sydney, Australia. I have the airport in sight. And we're going to reduce speed here in just a minute. I'm going to double check. Make sure we have it right. 200 knots. We'll flaps 20 in a minute here. Alright, at this point, we're coming up on the approach here for Sydney. I'm probably going to be doing a manual landing into runway 34, so you guys can expect that in a minute. We could also do an autopilot landing, but we're going to go ahead and turn now towards runway 34 left. 34 left. Alright, going to start our turn now, so we'll cancel the flight plan here in just a moment. As soon as we get our turn coordinated, we'll go ahead and make sure that we have the right. Oh, watch that turn, boy. And we'll select our heading hold right now. We'll just make sure that we're coming up in line with the runway. Can't quite tell what runway is what yet, but we should be able to tell here in a matter of minutes. Alright, at this point, we're going to go ahead and drop flaps 20 for arrival. Actually, let's go and put gear down, and we'll go and cancel the flight plan now. Clear the flight plan as we know to exactly what runway we'll be landing on. Alright. And I'll go ahead and reduce speed to 195 knots. Alright, so we're gonna probably land on that runway right there. Have to make another turn. Alright guys, so we're almost at Sydney. We'll wrap up the video as soon as we hit Sydney, Australia. I'm going to make sure our heading hold is on course and that we're lining up with runway 34 left here. Alright, at this point we're going to reduce flaps 30 for arrival. And make sure that we are on the glide slope. We'll go ahead and get rid of Mr. Mappy. And heading select. Alright guys, so we're just above the runway now. I think flaps 25 will do for this approach. So we're going to go ahead and deselect the altitude here. And the Boeing 777 actually handles very well when you deselect the altitude. Our maximum approach speed is 175 knots. So we're going to reduce that and flaps 30 for arrival into Sydney. It is going to be a manual landing. We'll continue the descent down to Sydney. Now what you're hearing in the background is just to be ignored. People fooling off. Alright guys, so we are coming into Sydney, Australia here very quickly. Okay. We'll just make sure that the aircraft is lined up with the runway. Oh, pick up. And our approach speed is 157 knots. So we are coming in really fast. We're going to put spoilers out real quick. Yeah, we're coming in really fast here. Get that speed down. We came in a little high on that runway. You guys are going to feel a drop. 1,000. 300. Coming in way too. It's alright. We got it. 100, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. And we're down, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sydney, Australia. Alright, we made it. Alright, brakes off. Alright guys, so we've made it to Sydney, Australia here. We are on runway 34 left. We'll go ahead and cross runway 307, and we'll take the first exit once we cross here and head over to the international terminal for arrivals. Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, Captain speaking, I'd like to welcome everyone to Sydney, Australia. The aircraft is still moving, and we will be taxiing for the next few moments so we can get ourselves over to the gate. And the captain, please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened, your tray table stowed, and your seat in the upright position as we are still moving. And once the aircraft has come to a complete stop and the captain has removed the seatbelt sign, you're more than welcome to get up and disembark. Once you have left the aircraft, though, please do not reboard, as you will not be permitted to come back on board the aircraft, as this is the termination of the flight. Thank you guys so much for flying with Virgin Australia, and we hope to serve you again on on another flight in the near future. Folks, this is the end of this aircraft's journey, and we are going to be heading into the domestic terminal 2 here in just a minute. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sydney, Australia. We made it safe and sound. This is our gate right here. We are going to take this gate instead. So, yeah, so we basically made it, basically. We made it as a group, and we're here in Sydney, and yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this full flight up to Sydney. I know it was a little bit of a long haul with a 777-300ER series, but we're here at the gate. So seatbelt sign is coming off, no smoking, nav lights. Actually, we'll leave those on. Thank you guys so much for watching, and here's a replay of the whole landing.